Frisco, Texas. This is the KSL Sports Zone coverage of the Big 12 Media Day. As we get you ready for the 2025 football season. Presented by Window World. High quality without high prices. That's the Window World way. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on in, everybody. It's Big 12 Media Days live in Frisco, Texas at the Star in Frisco. We've got players and availabilities all day long. We're going to be working through all these interviews in just a few moments. We're also going to get to, when we have a moment, the podium address to the media here from the commissioner of the Big 12, Brett Yormark. We'll bring you that as soon as we get kind of a break here of players. But the stars of the show are the players and the coaches that walk through. We appreciate them taking time. I love that. There are players that are asked to come. There are players that want to come. There are players that are a mix of both, where they like being here. They're the de facto leader of whatever, maybe that position group or whatever it might be. And Baylor is one of these teams that was on the rise at the end of last year, had a rough start. And, Hans, you and I talked about this. I think the turnaround actually happened in that second half against BYU.
It did.
If they had 2 more minutes against BYU, it may have been a little bit of a different outcome. Omar Ibidion joining us on the program here. He's one of the offensive linemen for the Baylor Bears. Did I get that last name right then? Oh, hold on. Let me turn you on here. Okay, now.
Hello.
Did I nail it? Am I feeling okay?
Yes.
Okay.
You said it perfectly.
We have a lot of players coming through here, and the pronunciation guides sometimes aren't right there. But thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Did you feel the same way? Like Sawyer comes in and BYU got off to a quick start in that game down in Waco. Mm-hmm. The second half got really, really close. I know BYU fans were nervous about how that thing was going to be coming around.
I honestly, I don't even think we needed 2 extra minutes. I really think because, at the end of the fourth quarter, we had the ball 2 times and a chance to score with the extra point and take the lead, to go up, what would it be, 35-34, I believe.
You got a good memory. I can barely remember any of these things.
Quite a while ago, but if we could have just scored in one of those 2 drives, our defense did a heck of a job, getting them to stop even after we didn't score the first time and getting us the ball back. But in the game of football, things don't always go your way, but that game was definitely a learning experience. And after that game, I would definitely say that second half was a turning point, but really going into the bye week and really reflecting on what we've done so far this season and or what we did so far that season. And, I think that was the start of it.
I could tell Omar and I would be best friends if we were teammates, so I've got a question for you, Omar.
Yes, sir.
Yes or no on this burger? This is a double cheeseburger, and it's layered with peanut butter and jam, and then and then it's and then it's 2 glazed donuts as the buns.
All right.
So glazed donuts, peanut butter and jam, and then it's a double cheese.
Where is this from?
Cheese is oozing
is this
out.
at the lunch buffet over here?
No,
just at the stadium?
Dang. This is actually at a restaurant I'm looking at going to.
This burger looks really good. The thing about it, I don't think I could eat a full burger of this. The peanut butter jelly with the cheese, that kind of just throws me off a little bit.
It's going to get thick.
But the thing, I would definitely try this burger for sure.
Maybe you go.
I definitely try it.
He's like, I might not get through the whole thing until he takes the first bite.
First bite, I'm like,
it works.
Give it here.
PK, look
Hold
at
on,
this.
I got to see this thing. And you're considering going to this place tonight?
Yeah,
I might get to 310, Omar.
Imagine trying to DoorDash that thing. It would show up as a soup. Dude, like that would not make it to the hotel
not
room.
making it.
I don't know. I think this thing is right up my alley. I think I'd really enjoy this.
See, this kind of game prep. This is the kind of show prep and game prep that we need more of at a show like this. That is an insane picture. You better freaking tweet that thing out.
That's a beautiful burger.
I'm gonna retweet this.
That is one beautiful burger.
Hey, one thing that I really envy you guys, and in the years ago that I played, they hardly fed us. They feed you good now in college football. Don't
yes,
they?
yes. They feed us amazing. I can only speak for Baylor. But we have something called the bank where all of our student athletes eat. They obviously cater in food for us, bring it in, but most of the time we eat at the bank, and our chefs and our staff in there just do such a good job getting us fed, and they pretty much alter the menu to what the athletes like. So I love the work they do there.
See, I love when you get a guy on too that they're not going, hey, now listen, we're gonna need you to take some pounds off. Hey, we're gonna need you to add some more pounds. It's like, look, get me into the bank and let me just go to town here and start creating some stuff.
Well, do you either make a deposit or withdrawal? Depends.
The deposit's
when you go to the bank.
Yeah, Omar, this team took that step. Give me an idea of what flipped switch wise for Sawyer Robertson when he took over for DeQuan Finn last year, and he started to really come into his own.
Right.
Why did he have so much success? Like, what clicked for him, do you think, and what clicked for you guys as an offense?
The thing about Sawyer, I've heard him say this multiple times, but I've seen it as well. He always prepared the same. He always was preparing like he was going to be the starting quarterback, even when he found out that wasn't his role. And he never. It's easy to say, like, when you're not a starter, it's easy to look down or not be that good of a team player. But him, he was always the same guy. So when it was his time to play, he was ready because he was doing all that preparation. And I can't even quite remember the question, but.
No, you about nailed it. I mean, It was just really about how that offense started clicking because obviously the defense started playing a lot better. The offense started playing a lot better.
Well, look at the scores. They put up 59 on Texas Tech, 38 on Oklahoma State, 37 on TCU, 49 on West Virginia, 45 on Kansas.
Yeah.
This offense went bonkers to finish out the season.
Right. And, I think that just, goes into us all really, really buying into Coach Spav's scheme and, really believing in each other. Starting the season off, we had a lot of new guys coming in and a lot of new positions, guys who haven't really played together. And, throughout that season, we were able to, mesh together as a team and really buy into what we're trying to do.
Do you think that we'll know a lot about this team right out of the chute because you got Auburn at SMU, Samford, a lower level you should win, and then your first conference game is at home to ASU.
Right.
So 3 of the 4, man, my gosh, before we even get to the end of September, we ought to have a good idea where Baylor stands.
100%, and that's the way we're preparing this year. We know what kind of challenge we have at the beginning of our schedule. But, that's what great teams want. Great teams want to play great teams, and they want to play great competition. And, I'm super excited because our unit's working very hard because we know who we have at the beginning games. And, throughout the whole season, bro, this is a team that has high expectations and high expectations for itself. So, playing good teams will get us those results we need.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Fall camp here in a couple weeks, you guys are getting going, all right? And you're lined up. What position? What side and what position?
Right now for Baylor, I start at right guard.
Okay, so I'm going to put you at right guard.
Right.
Okay. I'm calling just a left side counter.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull you.
Right.
And you're eyeing Keaton Thomas, and Keaton Thomas is your next level approach.
Right.
How are you going after Keaton on that pull?
The thing about Keaton, every play he brings it. So if I'm pulling around to hit Keaton, I'm gonna have to bring it as well. So I'm gonna.
Are you walling him? Are you angle blocking? Are you going low? Are you gonna try to take on the chest?
I'm gonna try to fit him inside out. You know what I mean? So if I'm pulling left, I'm gonna hit him with the left shoulder. But try to stay inside out. Hopefully have some low pad level and bring some aggression and physical nature to it because that's what he brings.
Because he brings some power, doesn't he?
Yes, sir.
He's good. That's the kind of teammate you need.
Yes, sir. 100%.
Just keep going on that because Hans is salivating right now. Keep this talk going.
Okay, so
we get this stuff. I love it.
Now we're just working on a downside combo off the play side, and I'm the center, you're the guard, and we got a combo. We'll do a minus technique up to Keaton. How are we working this?
I'm gonna have the center use a lift technique. Basically, I'd say if it's a zero nose, I have him reset his feet and lift with double hand lift, and then how I would like to do it is have the guard, kind of have a read there. If he's gonna have like a one-step read, so I don't know if who's listening if they're too familiar with offensive line technique, but they got something called a stair step. I would have him take his first stair step and read the hip of the nose. If that nose were to slant away, I would have him bumper back and take the double team vertical.
I love it.
But if the nose were to fit with him or come towards him, then I have him fit it up with the center and take it vertical to keep.
I'm bathing in this.
I was going to say this.
I'm bathing in it.
I'm saying, huh?
You've made his day.
It just feels so good.
You have freaking made his day.
Last thing, you pass set.
Right.
D tackle hits you chest high. He goes to a bull rush. Do you hop or do you step?
Personally, my coach teaches both, but I'm a big step guy. I feel like if you hop, both feet are in the air. I just don't like it. I see it happen. Some people do it in the pros, but it's just that just hasn't been something I've been super fond of.
Pretty prevalent in the pros.
Right. Yeah. I think so far I've been strong enough to take bull rushes by walking back. Maybe there'll be a day where I'm not, and I'll have to transition to the hop. But right now I'm walking back.
I love it.
Omar, that was phenomenal.
What about you, Alex? Hop or bowl?
I can't have.
Are you
well, first of all, neither both feet can't leave the ground at the same time for me.
So you're walking like me. You're walking back like me.
I feel really small right now.
It's not going to be like. That's the thing is that you always tell people as soon as they leave their feet, right, the power kind of leaves a little bit. I know that's but you got to be an ultra athlete,
right?
To those NFL guys.
Well, the idea behind the hop is you relieve pressure off both feet, but then both feet repost.
Yeah.
So then
that's a big anchor.
When I get a petty, it relieves pressure off both feet. Exactly.
That's bunion removal. That's not pedicure.
When I sit back and she, files my nails, it's the same thing.
Major pain relief. I like that.
Omar, that's been phenomenal. Best of luck this year. We're looking forward to. I think you guys are. I think you guys are coming out to Salt Lake, and when you take on the Utes. No. Sorry, they go down to Waco again. So yeah, Utah, because you guys were out in Salt Lake last year, and you don't have to face BYU this year. Although I would have loved to have seen that rematch as well. So best of luck to you this season, and just keep some of those tips in your mind that Hans gave you today.
Go do great things, Omar.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys having me on here, and then when I leave, I'll definitely take a look into that burger again.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, we'll do it. There you go. There's Omar. We appreciate it. Man, it's always fun to talk to these student athletes, and we have a really great time with them, and they're nice enough to give their time to us. He's got O-lineman hands there too, Hans. I mean, that's
you're right.
Get you.
Anybody got any ice?
When I talk to guys like Omar, it's like I don't really miss the game. I don't miss playing the game until I'm sitting there talking about it, and then I'm like,
look,
oh man, when he was talking about just calm one out the front.
So when I showed up in PK, I'm gonna kind of pull the curtain back a little bit. He goes, "Hey, listen, don't let Hans start to do these multiple O-line questions."
I was
when he gets
wrong.
in here, and I said, he's not going to do that. And then as soon as you got the first one out, what did I say? Let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going.
I want to keep.
You've got to have an articulate guy on the other end.
No, he's awesome,
and that was fun.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal.
It was entertaining.
Well,
which is what we're about.
He has some good ideas, but if I'm combo and play side with him, what is he, 6'3"?
He's a little bit shorter, yeah. So he's playing guard.
6'3", 310.
Okay, so about 6'3", 310. So what I'm going to ask him to do, I'm actually going to pull a flipper technique off the center position.
I thought so.
So I'll go play side, power step, 2 flipper, and then I'll ask him for double hand. What we'll do is a total takeover.
Am I going to Burger King here?
I think the best thing we got was
2 all beef patties.
The best thing we had was when PK goes, when I'm getting a pedicure.
Yeah. Hey,
it relieves the pressure on the feet.
Did you see the picture of that burger, though?
No.
Yeah, I did. You need to tweet that thing out.
I did. I just tweeted
I'm going to retweet the heck out of that thing because now I'm going to have to figure out a way to get.
I was reading 101 offensive linemen for dummies.
We're gonna take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll sneak in as many commercials, not as many, but we'll get in a couple commercials here, and then Brian Santiago, the new athletic director for the BYU Cougars, is going to be on deck here in just a little while. Gets done with an interview there. We'll also try to sneak in Sawyer Robertson as well. But let's leave it right there. We'll come right back. We've got more to go right around the corner. It is, of course, your Big 12 Media Days brought to you by Window World. Appreciate their support this year as we bring you all of our coverage from Frisco, Texas at the Star. Stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Live from Frisco, Texas. This is the KSL Sports Zone coverage of the Big 12 Media Day. As we get you ready for the 2025 football season. Presented by Window World. High quality without high prices. That's the Window World way. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Big 12 Media Days live in Frisco, Texas at the Star. Jerry World Light, whatever you'd like to call it. But it's a beautiful facility here. The Ford Center is it's a really beautiful building, and we've got a great setup here. We have our big old backdrop behind us, big, beautiful backdrop. And I keep telling myself I got to retweet out your burger picture. Hans Olsen just put out probably the most important image from Media Day so far, and that was the burger. What's the place called that you're looking at it from?
I'll have to pull up the name.
So Hans found a burger that's double cheese, peanut butter, and that looks like a strawberry.
What's crazy is he ate that for breakfast.
Yeah, and now I'm going to do it
It's like a strawberry jam or some sort.
Hutchins.
Oh, so Hutchins is the barbecue place, too.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Well, Looks like we might need to. Like I said, though, you can't DoorDash an order like that. That will show up.
Hey,
a real problem.
I just saw, and I know we got a lot of things to get to.
We got tons of things. Yes.
USA Today released their Big 12 power poll.
Yeah.
BYU 11.
number 11.
Yeah.
And that's pretty hard to believe that BYU would tumble that far off of the Jake Retzlaff news. You know, BYU, if Jake Retzlaff's back, don't you think BYU's in the top 3 for the USA power poll? Don't you think?
It could be. I think that a lot of people see what we have seen too, which is that BYU was more than – that offense was more than Jake Retzlaff, I think. And I think sometimes he was – nobody has – even with Jake Retzlaff in there, I don't think he was ever – he was at best maybe like the middle of the conference from a quarterbacking
not Jim McMahon
standpoint.
here.
No, but the thing that he brought to the table was think about going 0-4 his first 4 starts, right? And just and then turning that around to go 9-0 the very next season before they lost their first game and winning 11 games for BYU and staying relatively healthy. And on top of it, so you can't replace like the skill of winning. And more importantly for BYU, because this made their whole year, winning close games, coming back. Like those are skills that are learned in the moment. And I think that was the value because I don't think anybody's looked at Jake Retzlaff and gone, that's an NFL talent right there, unless I'm mistaken.
No, I don't think he is, but I think you have to – we tend to remember some of the bad stuff with the picks, but I think he would have been better this season. Losing Jake Retzlaff in the 2025 season is a blow. There's no other way around it.
100%. But the timing is probably half of that, too.
It's up to these guys to get going, man.
But this is my question. I think he won one game for them last year. That Oklahoma State game. Yeah. Outside of that, I think special teams won 4. I think the defense won the others. And I think L.J. Martin was more of a reason than anything for that offense to help in anything.
Can he stay healthy?
Well, not only that, can
LJ.
they give LJ more than I don't know how many average carries he had a game. What do you think? How many touches do you think he had? 13 or something?
Maybe 13 or 14. He needs to be around 20.
You got to get him there, right? And everybody's wanting that bell cow back. And I know that health had a lot to do with it, but that's crazy too because they do have a phenomenal 1-2 punch at running back, and Moa's going to be phenomenal, right?
Sione's going to be really good.
He's going to be super good. But you know what? L.J. Martin's your guy who you could have a 1,500 to 1,700 yard season.
Wow.
But why not?
Because he hasn't been healthy.
But okay. But
it's not that he doesn't have the ability. You have to have the availability.
And I think that his health, as we've heard today, he hasn't been as healthy. He hasn't been. Last year, we were already tiptoeing around it before the season even started, right? And we didn't.
Yeah, and then he got hurt in SMU, didn't he? If I remember,
they backed into.
They had to put in Davis on the big run on the pitch that got him in a position for the winning field goal.
So I don't know. I agree with you, Hans. I think we probably give more credit to Jake than he probably
But he would have been better this coming season. I think where the thing is going to now, it's going to be up to A-Rod. A-Rod is a Norm Chow disciple. He likes to take shots. Well, you might have to not eliminate, but reduce the shots and go with more of the safer offense through the air to get the chains moving, and maybe you don't have the big play, which if you don't have the big play in college, it's hard to unleash a 13, 14 play drive that eats up 8-9 minutes if you're not Air Force. And so they're going to have to figure out other ways. Now it's up to the coaches. I mean, it's not – I don't know that there's ever good timing to have something like this happen, but at least it did happen already as opposed to next month.
Now, BYU's here today. Utah's here tomorrow. Where was Utah on that power poll for USA?
5th, I think it was, PK.
And that's about right.
I'm getting such mixed messages from the media on Devin Dampier. Like
I think he's going to be good.
He was the Big 12. He was the Big 12
newcomer
of the year preseason. But then at the same time, every poll that I've seen of coach, have you seen the rankings of quarterbacks and things like that a lot of these publications do? And they have him typically listed between about. I mean, I've seen him as high as 4. I've seen him as low as 12. I think there's a little piece of. There's mystery a little bit there because when you're at New Mexico, and I know there's film out there, but there's still that anonymity of playing at New Mexico versus coming into Utah. The thing is that he's walking into the best situation he's ever had, not just as a program upgrade, but as an offensive line upgrade. Hans, you can speak to the difference that it makes to have 2 first-round NFL draft, guys that are in front of you, and Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano. This is a guy who already I get a little bit worried that he's going to try to run too much because how many yards on the ground did he have? 1,200, 1,300, something like that?
He's dynamic.
I'm way high on that guy, and I think that if you're a Utah fan, there's a lot of reason that fifth. I mean, I've seen anywhere between third and fifth. I think I had them at fourth in my poll, and I had BYU at seventh after the Jake Retzlaff news. I just have not been. But we were talking about this yesterday. There's more tiers than there are anything. You have teams that are pretty good. There's like 4 or 5 of them that are kind of tied there toward the top. There's a soft, squishy middle of the Big 12, and then you have teams at the bottom that we might consider not very good. But who's going to be the team that ends up being that team who surprises this year? Not sure. I talk to guys like at Baylor. I think Baylor's one of those teams poised to do pretty.
But I don't think there'll be a surprise this year.
No.
Because the teams that finish first and second, the thing that we will be able to identify. But the thing that is important for me is that the list of teams that can finish first or second is pretty long.
Well, what I would say is I've got Utah as one of the more bold, highlighted dark horses because you'd have to look at them as dark horse, where they finished and where they were ranked. And I think a lot of people are probably looking at them like, they're going through a quarterback transition.
It's going to take a minute.
You know, whether they're picked 6th, 7th, 8th, I see them as a potential dark horse because – if you give me Logan Fano, Lavani Damuni, if you give me Barton,
Smith Snowden,
and Snowden, I feel like I can build a sick defense. And then Coach Beck bringing his own running back, bringing his quarterback, bringing a Washington State running back with the Washington State running back coach.
Right.
And a lot of it's going to be how he fits with Freddie Whittingham and Jim Harding. If the three of those guys, Freddie, Jim, and Coach Beck, if they can meld and mold together and not conflict like Christensen did, and not be polarizing in the meeting room, and they flow, they could be 3 really dynamic minds working together, and that could be a really good offense. So I've actually got Utah as a potential dark horse champion.
I don't disagree. I think you doubt this team at your own peril. I'm going to repeat that 1,000 times over. I think it's about their ability to just keep what's his face. The Jayhawk is distracting me here.
Yeah, Rock Chalk.
Keep Dampier upright. Make sure he's smart, and if he plays all 12 games, there's no question in my mind they have a winning record. And I expect them to be in contention in November. I got it now. Number 1, Rock Chalk. You distracted me at first.
I think that's actually Lance Leipold in the suit.
Oh, yeah.
This is going on. Coach Leipold's going out here, and he's trying
I
to
would
do
say
some
Bill
recon.
Self.
You think it's Bill Self?
I'm going with Devin Neal. I think it's Devin.
Yeah.
The leading rusher in Kansas history, was he not?
Yeah. Well, you brought this up earlier too, Hans. When you talked about guys that got shorted on the Big 12 preseason poll, I think it was Chase who was like, I think a couple of guys got left off from us. Isaiah Glasser said the same thing. And they'll never be like, I should have been on there. But I think we all agree that a guy like, well, first of all, Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasser are on a lot of preseason everything, and then they don't get a look. I think that's also part of the product of having 16 teams. A lot of them being based down here, kind of in this area as well. It's hard to kind of cut through that noise sometimes, but. Right. Who got left off the list? Are you surprised that a guy like I don't know. We talked about Smith Snowden.
The only ones I'd really hammer on would be Isaiah Glasser, Jack Kelly. Landon Barton just
had a bad year last year.
Just not the best year.
Yeah.
Lavani Damuni was injured, but I could see all 4 of those guys. I could see as first team all conference linebackers at the end of the season. I could see a Logan Fano as an all-conference defensive end or edge rusher at the end of the season. And I actually think it's good for him. I think it's good. You guys saw Glasgow when I asked him. He knew. And he was like –
he had to pretend like, we don't think about that kind of stuff.
Knew,
it's like,
he wore it heavy.
Yeah.
I led in TFLs in the conference. Yeah, but – no big deal. Yeah, our defense led in every major defensive category in the conference. But, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of – you got to build up a rep, too. If other guys have reps, like the kid from Texas Tech, Rodriguez, has a rep. And so you just go to that. It's like in the old Pac-12. If you didn't know who to vote for guys from SC and Oregon.
Yeah, that happened a lot.
So you just go to the familiar here. And, if he would have been the year before and then coming back, or BYU had been in the league for 5, 6, 7 years, because majority of the voters, they're still getting familiar. Just like we're getting familiar with them, they're getting familiar with our teams that we cover. It's the same thing. And none of that really matters. I mean, he's going to be in the NFL. He's going to play well, and very well could be. You could even make a case that a kid like Glasgow could be conference defensive MVP. That's how good I think he is.
Yeah, that's how much they'll potentially highlight him.
And I've always said this about Utah. If you are a really good multi-year starter in the defensive backfield or the defensive line, you're an NFL guy. Well, clearly that's the case with BYU linebacker. If you are a multi-year great player at linebacker for BYU, you are in the NFL.
I would say this with this USA poll and with the poll that our station put together, and I would say every other major poll, I think you look at it and you can safely say BYU and Utah will both finish in the top 6 because of their defenses.
I can see it, yeah.
It just goes to the defense because it's a staple. It's consistent. It's all returning. Utah's defense has to stay healthy, but it's all returning. And then with Utah, you maybe take one step further because you've got 2 potential NFL first-round picks at the tackle positions. And so Utah projects to be really good, or should project to be really good offensively. I think both of them should be nominated as top 6 finishers.
If Utah is really good offensively, they will be in the title game. I just don't know if I can say that yet, because I think Kyle's philosophy, for better or worse, is be good enough offensively. And if you're good enough, that's what he's looking for, because I'll take care of it on the other side.
Last year was a perfect example of, I think, what's the number? If they would have scored 7 more points, if they would have scored a touchdown in the losses that they had, they would have actually been a 9-4 team. And you think about the 13-6 or 13-7 that they had against TCU at home, like that was the most.
Oh, a bunch of their games.
That was like the most hurtful, like just can't
Arizona
put points
game
up.
Was ugly
As well. And the worst was Houston, down in Houston. That was like
Houston
it
was
just didn't
like
show up.
pulling teeth, man.
So
Gosh.
I think that you're exactly right. Kyle's not looking to get to 45 points a game.
TCU 13-7.
But when
Houston
they were at
17-14.
Yeah, when they were at their best, when Cam was 100% healthy, they were scoring 36 points a game in the Pac-12. And that was the difference of being a Pac-12 champion.
The Gatorade cooler.
It was
the Gatorade cooler. I can't believe that he tried to scramble on the edge like that.
There was no need.
If I'm Kyle,
go down.
I mean, if I'm Kyle Whittingham, I gotta love that kid because he gave me 2 Pac-12 championships, and I gotta love him.
That's true.
And he gave you all the effort possible.
But if I'm Kyle, I'm looking at him like, you're the son that I'd never had, but I also want to smack across the face. How many times did I tell you not to get outside the pocket? How many times did I tell you to get
running
down?
Against your body in a game that was already won?
I can't believe he took the shot.
Go down.
Oh boy, the annual practice of forgetting if this is the old Trapper or the West Virginia mascot.
That's West Virginia.
Those guys are they get around each other and they're so awkward because one of them, the old Trapper guy, the old Trapper jerky guy. Actually, way better. His outfit's way better dialed up. I think he's offended by the lack of effort by the Mountaineer. Stone, our guy here on site, has run down Jack Kelly. This is my favorite part too. Hans, you'll love this. He goes, "I'm getting Jack Kelly." What happened was Keanu Tanavasa goes, "I'm going to bring him over there personally." He goes, "Let him eat, and then I'm going to walk him over to you guys." He pointed over here, and he's like, "I'm getting him over to this." So we're anticipating Brian Santiago. We're anticipating BYU outside linebacker Jack Kelly as well. So stay right here with us. More to go. Don't miss any of Big 12 Media Days. We've got this thing going, and if you have to go back and listen on the KSL Sports app or if you need to download the podcast, go ahead and do it. Hans Olsen, Patrick Kinahan, and myself, Alex Curie, we are going to be right back. More to go, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
The 2025 football season is nearly here, and it's time to hear from all of the coaches and players.
Yeah, boy.
This is Big 12 Media Day, live from Frisco, Texas. Media Day coverage on The Zone is brought to you by Window World. Call Window World for free quotes on windows, doors, and siding today. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back. It's Big 12 Media Days right here in Frisco, Texas at the Star. And Hans Olsen and Patrick Kinahan taking you through the coverage right here. PK revealed earlier in the program that he's got the maroon socks with the pitchfork on the side. I think that's the Stance brand sock. He committed to change them during the day, but I think that it's hard to have a.
Not to. You said not to.
I didn't. I said not to in front of people.
Oh, okay.
Not while people were in front of us. He was trying to put his foot up on the table to change the socks. I said, hey, maybe we dial that back while the athletic director's here.
I always get a petty before I go out of town.
Oh, man, that's the second mention of a petty.
Of a PK
call
petty.
me a lemma.
Yeah. Those toes are well groomed, man.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we're anticipating, hopefully, if they'll let him break away from there. Brian Santiago, the newest athletic director for BYU, talk about a guy who, there's no version of, I think, at a big program like BYU and how big that they've become and how big of an ask that they're getting from donors and how big of a charge they get from downtown Salt Lake at the church office building of making sure that they keep that they maintain the goal of the university. That switch over from Tom Holmoe to Brian Santiago is a crucial one. Legendary athletic director in Tom Holmoe, who we've had on these very media days. Hans, the biggest thing so far was as soon as Tom Holmoe left, one of the biggest challenges that you're going to face as an athletic director is having a public semi-scandal on your hands, especially with the football team, especially with the quarterback. In the midst of all this, it's a difficult thing to handle, and Brian Santiago's right in the middle of it.
Well, yeah, but it's kind of handled itself where the civil suits were dropped. If this thing was getting really ugly and then criminal charges came down and then the DOJ is going to come to investigate and then they start subpoenaing all the coaches and they want to know what the athletic directors were doing, and then you get yourself into a Blake Anderson, John Hartwell, or who was the athletic director at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Bovey on an interim where all of a sudden emails are being revealed. And guys, they've avoided a lot with this civil suit being dropped and the Provo Police Department not feeling like they need to pursue charges. So they've avoided a gigantic portion of what would have been a scandal. Now I think it's actually going to just be a blip.
Right, I agree.
Well, and it also ended up being, too, that, and to your point, what they had to do first was say, hey, everybody, I mean, in not as many words, we found out about this stuff when you guys did. So we're getting through it. We're trying to figure it out. We're going to get some details. And then on top of that, we don't talk about honor code stuff, and that's obviously a big one as well. It's not as, the honor code is what it is, and Kalani's the best representative I think you can get from a football perspective to be able to give you a good answer to where, because guess what? We watched his podium, the very first question, off the field distractions. And for Kalani Sitake, he's going, I don't have them because, one, we haven't been on the field yet, and we're just moving straight. They haven't had practice. They haven't had legitimate practices yet since that time. We were talking about the names that are out there, McKay Hillstead, Trayson Bourget, and Bear Bachmeier. I think it's kind of unfair the way that sometimes BYU fans do the whole Bear's, he's the future man. Get him in there. There's a lot that needs to happen with that kid. But A-Rod came on the station a few weeks ago with us, and he said, you guys are going to be blown away by the athleticism of Bear Bachmeier. I don't have any idea who that – I'm not hearing any word about who the actual quarterback could be between Hillstead and Bourget. I don't think Bear Bachmeier is a legitimate option right now, or do you guys think that's
well, I think you have to look at it.
Is it up in the air?
Because their first three games are probably not arguably, their easiest. So if you think Bachmeier is going to give you the best chance to win as the season progresses, maybe you go with him early to get him out there. It's not like people say, do what they did with Zach Wilson. You can't do what they did with Zach Wilson because they were an independent, and the second half of the season was always easier than the first half. So You can't spot. They knew what they were going to do with Zach Wilson weeks before they were going to do it, and they picked the spot, and he went out there and played well. Well, here it's in the heart of the conference race, man. You've got Utah and everybody else, so you can't stick Bachmeier in. If you think he might play this year, you might want to give him the start at the beginning, and then if it doesn't work out, then you can go to Hillstead or Bourget. It's an interesting dilemma that they have. And they'll figure it out through their 3-4 weeks. The good thing with the opener, Portland State, you have that extra week of preparation. You don't necessarily need to focus completely on Portland State. You can use it as an extension of fall camp and all that stuff. So my guess would be Hillstead, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Bachmeier if they think they're going to use him in the season. Why not get him to start against the easier teams?
Skyridge kid, right? Or
yeah.
Which one is it? Yeah, Skyridge.
Yeah. And Bourget's from Sal Point Catholic in Tucson. If you go on BYU's website, it says Salt Point, but that is a mistake.
Oh, okay.
It's Sal Point.
You didn't call somebody up?
One thing that I look at, because I do think a lot of people question what the coaches knew or what administration knew about Jake Retzlaff's situation. And what I can tell you is, with the amount of money BYU was spending, there would have been a different quarterback brought in, and it would have been an indicator that they did know. Bachmeier is not that indicator. Bachmeier was recruited and brought in before.
Yeah.
And he is not a money quarterback. He's not the big money spend like, oh, well, we're desperate. We would have had indications of desperation and big moves and big money spent. In fact, to the point where if a big-time named quarterback would have been brought in for big money before we knew about Jake Retzlaff, we would have questioned it.
That'd have been a tell, right?
We would have been like, guys, what are they doing? Like, why? They got a returning third-year guy, and they just brought in a $3.5 million former five-star. What are they doing? There would be a lot of questions for that. So I think it's an indicator that they didn't know. But as far as the quarterback's concerned, with Aaron Roderick, it's not even the guy that's, you missed the throw. Oh, that was an overthrow. It's the guy that sits under a center or sits in shotgun, recognizes all of his depths and all of his indicators, makes the right call, gets into the right set, and makes the right play.
I think they should have gone after Levitt.
Like Chase Sam.
Yeah.
It would have taken a lot of money, PK.
Mend those bridges.
Yeah, it would have taken a lot of money.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine like him with the photo shoot? Get Dallin involved in it too. They're both doing the
bring the prodigal family home.
Have him answer to the video.
It's actually one of the more interesting. When you asked him that question about it, hey, there's some saltiness, there's some mustard there. I think is where you put it, and his face got. I mean, he's upset talking about BYU.
Oh yeah.
So this is. By the way, if I go to the Big 12 conference, that's exhibit number 1. I take a picture of that kid during that question and go, here's why you have to make sure Arizona State and BYU always play each other.
Yeah.
Utah and Arizona State always play each other.
Always.
Have to.
Yeah.
It's crazy because there's already some background. So you're going to replace – look, I get it. They have to rotate around and play each other. But you can figure out a way for those 4 teams to always play each other. Colorado, BYU, Utah, Colorado – wasn't that the old Rocky Mountain Oyster Cup?
Yeah,
wasn't that
but yes, they created something.
Some fake thing, yeah.
The problem is on that, though, if all the teams are good, is it fair to them and the other teams don't have to play them and they get easier teams? So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But I would have still liked it to be played because it's an intense rival and fans can get to back and forth. And so many BYU fans, as you saw, hands. That always cracks me up I've traveled with BYU basketball and football for 20-some years, and you go to some place where the fans aren't used to that many visiting fans show up, and then BYU shows up, and you get so many church members from that area, plus the ones who would travel, and they're like, whoa, they're taken aback. Wow, what is this? We're not used to this.
Yeah.
And that's what BYU's about. That's why who was it? Somebody told me that the SC, BYU went down to the Rose Bowl to play UCLA, and they had 15 extra thousand people there at the game, and the USC athletic director called the UCLA guy up and said, "What's up with that?" And he said, "Oh, that's because you play BYU." And then boom, SC gets BYU on the schedule.
Yeah. Because they want some people.
Yeah. And you have a bigger crowd.
Well, I remember playing in Sun Devil Stadium, and that was Jake the Snake time. Jake Plummer.
96, yeah.
Arizona State was good fan base, pretty rowdy, and I definitely remember the BYU cheers.
Right.
It was very, very loud. And then again, covering it this year, there were so many BYU fans there. It's impressive.
At least 30%.
What if we take a moment here and jump in for as we wait on the arrival of Brian Santiago? We also have Kalani Sitake next to us here. I don't know if they're going to march him through our area right now. He's kind of doing some TV duties. I think we're anticipating Brian Santiago in the next few minutes here. Let's jump into a conversation. I think he might be headed this way, actually. I want to have the Brett Yormark comments in the hopper here because, but I think we're going to get Brian Santiago in the next couple of minutes here. Like we were saying, this is a job now that Brian Santiago's been in for all of 3 months officially, and maybe 2, and he's had to jump in here and take on a lot just in a little bit. Let's take I think we've got him right now, yeah. So let's walk over
he's coming.
Brian Santiago, who's the he's the athletic director of BYU right now. And he takes over, of course, for Tom Holmoe, who had 20 years at the helm there. And obviously with the new role that he's got, this is not a guy who's a stranger to this program. This is not a guy who's a stranger to all the things that have obviously gone on in BYU's history. He's been a part of all of that already. I think that was part of the reason Hans said he was a good choice for this, is because everybody knew, like, he's a face that's been around here for a long time. He knows what the standard is, and he was also a big part in making sure that they secured a lot of money and a lot of funds to be able to make sure the athletic department was in a good shape financially.
Oh, let's not get too far away from exactly how this went down. I mean, Brian built out a basketball program that started to hit. Tom Holmoe announced that he was going to be departing, and right after Tom Holmoe announces he's going to leave, Kevin Young and BYU basketball just starts clicking and winning.
Yeah.
And whose name was attached to BYU basketball at the time? It was Brian Santiago.
Right.
So as Tom Holmoe announced he's leaving, and BYU basketball starts winning, and Kevin Young looks like a superstar, and then they get in the NCAA tournament, they beat Wisconsin, and they continue to move. Everybody looked at Brian Santiago as like, yep, that's the no-brainer. I mean, he built out a winner that projects to win for a lot of years, and now taking on the momentum. He gets to ride the momentum he's helped build.
He sat down right for that beautiful introduction, Brian Santiago, the new athletic director for BYU. Hey, this is not that this is new to you. You've walked around at these for years, Brian, but congrats on, obviously we've chatted with you since the hire and everything, but here we are. This is like your first media day football-wise as the athletic director, and it's been a quite eventful last couple of months, but thanks for joining us, first of all, and congrats, man. Your guys are all dialed in today. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I also love being on a headset with people I like. That's always a positive.
I'm glad to hear that.
I got 3 people I like right here.
Are you saying you had a real run-in with some of the Cincinnati guys? We've had a rough go. We've been interviewing athletic directors, and I love the administrative look at things. And you've had so many. We talked to Terry Mahajier. I think we talked with Graham Rossini, obviously from Arizona State. When you interact with these athletic directors, what things do you share with one another, and then what stuff do you try to keep from one another?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was just talking to John Cunningham before he left from Cincinnati. We're just discussing TV wanted us to potentially move a football game to earlier in the week and off of a Saturday. And
did you say no? I hope you said no.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. Worked out great for both of us to keep the game where it was on a Saturday. But
it's not going to be a Tuesday instead. It's perfect.
Not a Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon. Let's just go Tuesday afternoon to make it great.
You understand you still have to clear that through Greg Wrubell, right?
Yeah. That's actually fantastic. That's actually fantastic. It takes me back to a time when we were playing Utah football at home, and the basketball team was in Vegas playing North Carolina and Louisville back in the day, and we had to kind of go back and forth, and it just makes me chuckle because hey, besides the game it was Greg Wrubell's travel schedule became the focal point of what
was the
happening.
Conversation.
Yeah, that was like the thing that we all needed to pay attention to. But one thing that I want to say, you talk about Graham Rossini, you talk about Terry from UCF. The one thing that you'll find in the Big 12 right now, which is pretty awesome, is there's great respect in the AD room. Commissioner Yormark talked about it today with not only the board of directors, with the presidents, but the AD room. There's great respect throughout, and there's great conversation that happens all the time. And then I was just sitting in a room, 20 minutes ago with Scott Frost and Kenny Dillingham. Kalani was in the room. There's unbelievable respect between the coaches as well. I mean, there's great communication happening. And to your question of, what are we discussing? We're really discussing the future of college athletics. We're talking about rev share. We're talking about this transition from the collectives with this kind of the power shifting back to the universities and how that's going to play, how we get all of our coaches aligned so they don't feel like other people have it different or they have other rules to live by, that we're all living by the same rules. We're talking about scheduling. We're talking about challenges we have with the fan bases. Frankly, we had a great discussion, Graham and I did, about what happened last year at the University of Arizona, fan behavior, things that oftentimes are pointed towards BYU, and how that plays. And we were strategizing, Graham and I were, about how we get out ahead of it with BYU, Arizona State. There's such a great history all the way to the early WAC days, and how are we going to get out ahead of it so there's a better mutual respect between the fan bases. And he said, I heard from a lot of your fans that were treated very poorly when they came to Tempe. And he said it. He said, I want to fix it, and I want to collaborate with you on how we can get out ahead of it, because I want your fans to have a better experience. We have so many people that are members of your faith that are in our local area. He said, we got to be better. Those are the conversations that are happening. That's why I use the word respectful, because it's so good that there's such good relationships in the room. We can be real with each other.
You've been employed at BYU, I think, since 1997.
That's right. July of 1997.
Yeah, I remember it well, man. I remember you sharing that little corner with Steve Cleveland.
Yeah.
We were younger, and I still have the hair.
You still have hair. I got no hair. But
why would you do that? This is three guys that doesn't play with very well, PK.
I mean, he was just in his 20s, and Steve Cleveland brought him to town, and so you know all about it. And during that time, there was some real troubling honor code issues with the football team, and I had known that people in Salt Lake, they just didn't appreciate that. Now, where I'm going with this, I'm not asking you to rehash the Retzlaff thing, but when something like that happens, it brings attention to everybody, good and bad. Does it heighten the, I don't know if sensitivity is the right word, but just maybe awareness of what BYU's about and what our athletes need to do to make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to go? You see what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, Pat, I appreciate kind of the context that you asked that question. One of the things that is a strength of BYU is that we can stand with confidence in exactly who we are. And I really believe that there is some clarity that's coming to young student athletes as they make their decisions about where they're going to go to school, where they are choosing BYU precisely for what it stands for. Like, if you tell me a few years ago that in this little period of time you're going to have 4 or 5 of the best athletes in the country, both members of our faith, non-members of our faith, choosing BYU and standing with confidence and going on the offensive about why they feel so passionate about BYU and what it stands for, the honor code. They know exactly what they're signing up for. I think it's bringing an awareness, and I'm talking about Ryder Lyons. I'm talking about AJ DeBansa. I'm talking about Kihei Akina on the golf front. I'm talking about Jane Hendergren. I'm talking about these national recruits that are saying we're choosing BYU for precisely what it represents. There's a great awareness right now with what's out there in the media of what our honor code is. And we stand with confidence. We actually think it's a strength. I know that we've been through some tough situations through the years since I've been at BYU.
Right.
and we could talk about each one of them. But I'm telling you, when we actually stand for something, I know people say, okay, are we going to go there? Yeah, we're going there. When we actually stand for something, when you talk about Gordon B. Hinckley, one of the great prophets of our church, and him talking about standing for something, I just love the fact that we can stand with confidence in the world that we live in right now and say we can chase greatness. We can be the best in the country, attract the best athletes in the country that know exactly what they're signing up for and do it the BYU way. We have 100 years of history to show that we're going to get through tough situations and we're going to come out even better. Like, I have confidence. Like, we, in this situation with Jake Retzloff, we hope that as he chooses and he can make his own statement on what he's going to do. But if he ends up at another school, we're going to cheer for him to have great success. We want him to be successful. He did some good things for us here at BYU. We as a football program, if that's the direction he goes, we're going to rally. Like, you look in that room, the 5 young guys that we brought here that represent BYU here at Media Day, you don't get any better. The character in the room, the coaches that are leading out, I just love. I'm gonna go there. I love Kalani for every situation. Tough, great. You're in a room with a guy that's like, let's do the right thing. He's always wanting to do the right thing in every situation. And as an athletic director, yeah, I love walking the path with coaches like that. That their interest is in the human element of these student athletes and making sure that we do right for all of these young men and women that come to BYU. So we look at it as a strength, Pat. I think it's something that we'll never shy away from, and I think our competitive advantage into the future in college athletics is who we represent, the honor code, the way that we are unashamed about what it is. It's a strength for us.
I certainly believe it could be a positive more than it could be a negative. And
100%.
it was in my life. When I was coming out of high school and I was going to head to Nebraska, and I was just talking about it. Tommy Frazier was my recruiting host, and Christian Peters were my recruiting host in Nebraska, and coming off back-to-back national championships, and I needed structure. There are kids that aren't looking for, all the bad things in life. There's kids that are looking for structure, and they want to live in a positive environment.
I love that you're bringing this up because we actually hear it. They vocalize it in their recruiting visits. They're actually saying to our coaches, when we talk about exactly what we're signing up for at BYU and what you're going to get from the discipline and all the structure, their student athletes opting out in those conversations, saying, hey, it's not for me. But some of the best in the country are going, it's exactly what we're looking for. We want this structure. We want the discipline. Yeah. We want leadership. We want to be around coaches that are going to help us prepare for life, not just how we're going to compete on a football field or anything else.
Yeah, there have been handfuls of moments where I think about Jamal Williams' mom, right, who was like, you need this structure. And now, if it's mom or dad, guys who are in or outside of the faith, whatever it might be, they walk up and they go, hey, listen, your goal is here, and you're not going to get here to the NFL if you're going to be screwing around over here. And it's just it's a difficult path, for some of these kids. They need that structure.
Good structure.
I can promise you one thing. I have not met a set of parents yet that have been like, oh, this would not be good for our son or daughter.
Yeah, right.
The parents are all the way in. Hey, and some of the student athletes are in a spot where they're having to make a decision. Like, do I want this in my life? And I'm telling you, the very best of the best are going, we want it, and we're in.
So when I came to BYU, Rhonda Feldberg was athletic director, and then Val Hell, and those two worked really closely with Lavelle. And I went through my honor code deals while I was there for 5 years. And I worked directly with Rondo, directly with Val, and then Lavelle in conjunction with the honor code. But they were always very well in tune with what they were doing, and there was always a good healthy back and forth. Is that how you do it with Kalani? Like you, Kalani, and the honor code? Are you all on the same page working together?
The alignment's never been better. I've been at BYU for 27 years. Pat talked about it. The alignment of the athletic administration, the university administration, the church board of trustees has never been better. and the communication lines are incredible. Like, we work closely together in every situation. You know, I get asked directly sometimes, even by student athletes, who's involved in these decisions. And I'm not hesitant to say we're all in it together. We're communicating. We're all involved.
Well, I think that people would be surprised because one of the go-tos is, well, you've got to let the repentance process take place, and you can't get in the way of that. I think people would be surprised to know how much repentance is allowed and how much is not.
We can't lose track of a couple things. The human element. Like, if we're really invested in these student athletes the way we profess to be invested in them, in every situation, they're not one of anybody that's perfect.
No way.
And what we're trying to do is develop future leaders. We're trying to develop young men and young women of faith that are going to go out and change the world. And you look at some of the best ever at BYU that went through challenging times. That's the whole key to this, is that you have to give them an opportunity to grow and learn and develop and be better. Like, listen, I'm going to say real quickly, we just had a graduation banquet where 5 student athletes from different areas got up to talk. You had an Olympian up there. You had first-team All-Americans up there. They talked about their experience at BYU. Not one of them made any mention of the races they won, of the games they won, of the championships. Every single one of them talked about how through their time at BYU they went through some of the toughest times of their life, how coaches stepped in and carried them through those times, through the adversity, how fellow student athletes, and then they started talking about their relationship with God and how their faith has increased. They came through triumphant in their athletic goals, but they talked about being prepared to go out and face life because they'd been through adversity and people actually invested in them when they were in their toughest moments. And, you know, frankly, some of the greatest things that I've seen in 27 years at BYU, people that have gone through some tough situations, student athletes, and for privacy reasons I won't say it, but the other day I ran into one of them and it was an emotional reunion.
Yeah.
Like
people don't know that.
We went through stuff where they'll forever be grateful because when they needed it the most, and this one was a pretty prominent one, he talks about the fact that in their toughest moments, when the world was against them and they were embarrassed and everything else, they talk about Danny Ainge, and Steve Young, and Gifford Nielsen, all the former greats that reached out and said, we got you. Like, we got you. We'll get through this together. And in the end, you see them now, and it just brings such joy because they don't understand. People don't see the private, personal nature of helping people walk the path.
That was the point I was trying to bring.
And that's what
there's a lot of that goes on.
There's a lot of that goes on. And I tell people all the time, we're in this together. Like, we're walking the path together.
I want to throw something else at you. There's a prominent quote in a story at ESPN.com over the winter where a booster said, "You will not outbid us." I believe you saw that quote because everybody saw that quote. And it was about the basketball team. And the quote was, "You will not outbid us." And there's this guy named Clark Gilbert, I think is a church commissioner. And he says, and he tweets this out, engage in NIL competitively, but never the highest bidder. How do you reconcile a booster who has influence say, "You will not outbid us," versus a church leader who says, "But never the highest bidder"?
Yeah, first thing I want to say, Pat, and it's a very fair question, is Elder Clark Gilbert is the commissioner of education for the church.
He's the head of all the church education.
And he is super, super important in helping us stay mission aligned. And we have a tremendous amount of respect for him and how much he cares and is supportive of athletics. And he's accurate. I think that what people don't understand is there's a lot of narrative out there. And by the way, I'm not sure the quote from the booster is an accurate quote. And so I don't want to necessarily go on record, but I think that quote was 100% taken out of context. I know the booster you're referring to, and when I saw that, I'm like, that doesn't even sound like him. Like, I don't think he would ever say something like that.
So how was it taken out of context?
I just don't think it was. I think he was misquoted.
Okay.
So I want to say those two things. Number one, Elder Gilbert is super important to us. Number two, I'm not sure about that quote, but this is the important thing I think of what you're getting at. We live in a current environment where we have to be in the game. There's no question, especially in the culture of BYU. It's an uncomfortable space to be in the game in NIL, collectives, rev share, but we have to be competitive. But I think Elder Gilbert is exactly right. Like, we don't want to lead out with money ever. We don't want to. That's one of the brilliant things that happened with A.J. DeBansa. A.J. DeBansa and his family came to our campus 3 times, and we never had one conversation about money. It was not part of the conversation. And all the other schools involved were just asking the question to A.J. and his family, what's the number? That's what they're leading with. And we're over here talking about Kevin Young. Kevin Young's talking about how we're going to help prepare him for the NBA. Kevin Young's talking about Michael Davey, Wiz, our strength and conditioning guy that came to us from the Milwaukee Bucks. He's talking to him about Craig Manning, who's one of the bright minds in all of sports science. This is how we're going to prepare you. That's the conversation for 3 times with the family, never having a conversation about money. Now, if we would have had all those conversations and A.J. DeBansa says, hey, I want to come to BYU, and we say, great, will you come for nothing? A.J. DeBansa is not coming to BYU.
Right.
I want to be honest about it.
Yeah.
You have to be in the game. But I think what Clark reflects there is accurate. We're not going to lead out with money. We think that there is tremendous value in all the other areas, but make no mistake about it. And we have to be real, and we have to deal in reality. If we're not competitive in the rev share, if we're not competitive in the NIL, they're not going to choose BYU. You can find the most Cougar Blue faithful, like Latter-day Saint that's all in, that will give their right and left arm to come to BYU. If we offer them nothing and Stanford offers them $500,000, they're going to Stanford.
Right. I understand that.
It's not $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 is not going to make or break it. When you start talking about all that money, you have to be in the game.
I push back on never the highest bidder. There might be somebody.
But why do you push back on that?
Because there's got to be BYU's got to be the highest bidder for at least one out of the 500 or 600 athletes that you got on campus.
Okay.
Well, maybe
maybe we bid on somebody that didn't have anybody else bidding on them,
so you're the
because
highest
we want to
bidder.
invest them. But I think the context of what you're getting at, I think is accurate.
It's not for money.
We are not going to lead with money.
Right.
It's got to be a mix of those things.
It's going to be all the mix, because at the end of the day, you got to be competitive.
Yeah.
Again, I think we have to have a real conversation.
Yeah.
If you're talking about a $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 difference, that's not going to make or break someone's decision. But if you start talking about life-changing money, which it blows all of our minds, right? If I ask any of us 5 years ago if we're talking about this, you'd just be like, no, that can't happen. Well, it's happened.
Yeah.
And now we're in the midst of this game where I'm just so grateful that the settlement has gone through, that the shift has come back to the power is in the athletic departments, and that we get to manage it. Because what was happening third party was unsustainable.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't have any hair before, I mean, let's just be real. I mean, it was unsustainable.
Yeah.
And yet we navigated it. I'm so grateful for the generosity of so many people that helped us navigate those times. One of the reasons we're having wild success right now is that we were able to navigate it, and that we were able to at least be in the game, so these student athletes wanted to come here.
Uh-huh.
And now that we can transition to where we control it, that's what I'm super grateful for. This is the other thing. There's a narrative out there that this is 1 or 2 people that was helping us navigate the NIL waters. No. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies and BYU Cougar faithful donors came to the table to help us be in the game. And I like the gratitude. I made 2 or 3 calls June 30th and July 1st to some individuals, and not necessarily just the people that had been generous with their money, but people on the Royal Blue Collective side. I mean, there are 2 or 3 people that jumped in with us 2-3 years ago to help us navigate the contracts, the legal, the payments, the tracking. Like, people don't see that side of it. And I just called people and said, I just have to express my gratitude. Like, we never could be where we're at if it wasn't for some of these individuals. So I just feel a lot of gratitude for Cougar Nation coming to the table, and make no mistake about it. You're talking about people that run really successful companies. They're all driven to be great. Yeah. They want BYU to be great. I have yet to have anybody come and say, B, we want to help you because we want BYU to be mediocre.
Yeah.
We just want you to be middle of the road.
Mid-level competitive.
No. They're all coming going, let's go. Like, let's get in the game.
I was take off your administrator hat for a minute.
Okay.
And just from a straight basketball lover perspective, can you explain to Cougar Nation just exactly the A.J. DeBonsa situation in the sense of when you watch him on the court, like, you must get a tremendous kick out of just watching a kid be at a level that we've never seen before on that court?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to say about A.J. DeBonsa is Kevin Young. It's the same thing I say before I talk about Ryder Lyons. I talk about Kalani Sitake.
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it, it's those guys looking at who's going to be the head coach and saying, is that who I'm going to battle with? A.J. DeBonsa chose BYU because Kevin Young chose BYU. And he's chosen BYU twice now. Kevin.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
when it would have been real easy for him initially when the Nets were chasing him and he chose BYU, and then the Suns, he chooses BYU. That's precisely why A.J. DeBonsa chooses this, but I'll take off my hat for a minute.
He looked around nobody's hearing this.
Watching this guy play basketball it's an absolute sheer joy. He is so good because he makes everybody else great on the floor. I have to tell you this because I think we all had a little bit in us of, okay, here comes A.J. DeBonsa. He's the number 1 potential pick in the draft. He's the number 1 player in the country. I have in my mind a little bit, you see all the highlights of A.J. DeBonsa walking in the gym and dribbling around till he can shoot. One guy dribbling around. I saw him on 7 straight possessions in a highly intense scrimmage get to the middle of the floor and kick for wide open threes. And all 7 of them went in. I got so excited I had to leave the gym. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Because you think about someone that immensely talented, they could shoot the ball every single time they touch it. 7 straight possessions for wide open threes. I literally said these words, he's as good a passer as Yegor. That sometimes
who was just high for his passing.
And because he's so good at making everybody else better, he's that good of a passer. And then whenever he needs to, he just rises up and can do things that you need to do late in the shot clock. So as a basketball guy and someone as a point guard who my dad always taught me, like it feels better to get an assist than it does to get a bucket. And feeling like that's part of the team thing. That's what got me excited. You put him on the floor with Richie. I mean, Richie is playing at such a high level and is just kind of the glue of everything.
That's why I canceled vacation next April.
Yeah. I like that. Here's something else that gets me excited. Is in the middle of the year last year, and I don't want to switch too much over here, but, Kevin Young's like, we're a really good basketball team. Why are we on the bubble? Like, we're on the bubble. I said, Coach, we got to upgrade the schedule. We can't play that non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
Because if we play that non-conference schedule and you happen to lose a tough game to Ole Miss and don't get to play Purdue, now that's why we're on the bubble. Now, about a month ago, he goes, what are we doing? Because we're playing maybe the toughest schedule in the country.
Step up.
We're going to New York City to play in the Jimmy B. We're going to Boston to play UConn. We're going to Orlando. We're going to Vegas. We got 2 big-time schools coming into Salt Lake. We got the Big 12 schedule.
Huge step.
All of these things, not just on the basketball side, but on the football side, this Big 12 being in a nationally relevant conference, it's a game changer. For the recruits, for the day in and day out, the games you're playing. I actually love the fact that Utah and BYU are back in the same conference. I've always been a proponent of it. I think there's 100 years of history of why we should be in the same conference. There's actually great respect with the University of Utah from the administration, from the coaches. And I have to say this, one of the first guys to reach out to me was Mark Harlan. I got off the plane to go to the Big 12 meetings. He was waiting for me when I got off the plane. Huge respect. Kyle Whittingham's my neighbor. We grew up next. People don't know that. We grew up next door to each other. You're the one who told me
about his dad passing.
And so,
in the parking lot after a football practice.
There you go. So you remember that.
I do.
But the Whittinghams are, and I go to the Big 12 meetings. First guy to come over to me in the room is Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah.
Right? There's a great amount of respect, but just the Big 12 as a whole has been a massive value add for BYU, for Cougar Nation. Everybody wants to be in the game. Now we're in the game.
Speaking of in the game and talking about AJ, the one and done game is an interesting game. Where you bring a guy in for 1 year. Duke made a living off of it, and there's been a lot of schools. Tough to land a one and done, but that's business BYU would be more than happy to be in.
Well, I think as long as it's the right fit.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get away from the fit. And I think A.J. DeBansa looked at it, and when you have a chance to get an A.J. DeBansa, when you get around him, this is a quality kid. I mean, I flew back the other day, 5 a.m. from the track championships because A.J. DeBansa wanted to go to the Boys and Girls Club and
hand out some
shoes and make the day better for these little kids. So I flew home at 5 a.m. and I just kind of sat there and watched him. And I'm like, this is just, when you get a chance to get a young man like A.J. DeBansa, you have to take those opportunities because they fit. Not everyone fits, but A.J. DeBansa chose BYU. We choose A.J. DeBansa. It's awesome. And we feel the same way about Ryder. That was a big deal for us to land Ryder Lyons, who I've always said, if you get the very best LDS kids in the country, and then you add to those men and women that choose BYU for what it is, that are religiously diverse, that's the recipe for success.
The sweet spot.
There's 100 years of history to prove it. That's what's helped us chase championships and national championships, and we're going to continue to do that. That's why it was so important for us to land Ryder Lyons and to have him tell the world, BYU. Unbelievable.
So before we get you out here, because I know you've been super generous with your time, we appreciate it because it's fascinating for us to be able to break it down. Brian Santiago, athletic director for BYU, joining us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You've seen other schools have to wipe some programs, have to make some tough decisions.
Yeah.
Is there any of that on the horizon for BYU, or have you had to have even like preliminary conversations like, hey, we want to avoid this, or are those conversations that you've already had to look at because it's an athletic department that obviously it's not cheap to run an athletic department. You have generous donors, but is there a future where BYU has to look at other programs and say we might have to walk away from that?
Alex, great question. We want to be nationally relevant across the board.
In everything.
In every sport. And we were prepared to be that when we entered the Big 12. And we're going to continue to invest in all of our sports across the board. We have to be real. This new revenue share is almost all of it is pointed towards football and men's basketball. But at BYU, we've been planning for over a year. We've got a great team put together. We've been planning for this for over a year of how we're going to stay relevant in all the rest of our sports, how we're going to invest in all of the rest of our sports, how we're going to be prepared when we have student athletes in the Olympic sports that rise up and become All-Americans, and every school in the country is coming after them. I just was talking to one of our coaches an hour ago, in one of our Olympic sport coaches, where we have an opportunity to get an absolute game changer in their sport. we're prepared for it. I told them, go get the recruit. We are prepared for it from a financial standpoint in our rev share model to be able to land that recruit. We are committed to excellence across the board. We're going to continue. Why wouldn't we? We're nationally relevant. We're national champions in multiple sports. We are going to chase championships, and the last thing we want to do is divest in some of our Olympic sports, because I think we can do all of it. I think we can really focus on football and basketball, because there's a reason it's called rev share. They're responsible for all of our revenue. We're going to take care of them, but we're also going to spread it out, because we do not want to divest in any of them. We want to be great across the board, and we want to chase greatness. And most importantly, as I always say, and Pat, you love this, do it the BYU way.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby.
I'm aboard.
Let's go. Let's go.
I've had your back
All
for
in.
27
All
years,
in.
man.
I do agree. I do agree with that.
Brian, we appreciate the extra time.
Brian, I'm glad that you get to ride some of the momentum that you've built.
I appreciate
that's the big thing about this
that's
hire,
cool.
is you get to ride the momentum you built. So
I just want to correct one thing. I do get the privilege of riding it, but it's the momentum that we built.
Yeah.
With Tom, with our team, with our coaches. We built this together. And I've always wanted to do this, to be able to tell the world about how great our coaches and student athletes are. And that's how we are going to continue to do it. And we're super grateful to ride this momentum. And as I said the other day, you can't stop the Mo. Let's go.
Oh, man.
Born to win,
Can't
baby.
stop them all. Let's go.
Brian Santiago,
Let's
BYU Athletic Director, nice enough to take some time out today. Brian, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for letting
we
me
really
be with you
appreciate
guys.
it.
Appreciate you.
There you go, Brian
It's
Santiago.
part of the
everybody.
franchise.
We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to get from Texas Tech. Cole Wisniewski is going to join us, one of these FCS All-Americans that has found his way to Lubbock, and we're going to join him in just a couple of minutes here. So he's going to jump on the headset. More to go. Stay with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.